Hi everyone, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome back to Daytona for race 2 of the CoppaShell category of the Ferrari Challenge, as we are at Finale Mondiale 2016. The logo looking brilliant here at Daytona. In the sunshine, well, what would you expect here in Florida? That's where we are, the pinpoint accurate as ever on the map to show that we're in North America. And delighted to welcome alongside NASCAR legend and now Ferrari Challenge racer as well, Rusty Wallace. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you also. I had a great time here so far in the Ferrari. It's just something I never thought I'd be involved in, but my gosh, what a big event we got here in Daytona. Looking at all the cars and how beautiful they are and how the excitement level is sky high is really something. But I've had 2 races so far in the car. I got a podium finish last night.
You did.
I kind of got in trouble today, so
tell everyone.
Yeah, I've got one more chance tomorrow. I kind of had a brake problem and got into the bus stop, they call it, and then I went back out and I passed a couple cars to go in my original position. Well, that's a no-no, and I got in trouble. So I'll pay for that and fix it tomorrow.
Okay. 5.729 kilometer circuit here with that banking of some 31 degrees, which of course, particularly for our European racers, is a bit daunting, Rusty.
Well, that's a lot of banking angle. There's no doubt about that. The cars right now are actually on a warm-up lap. They're going to run 2 or 3 laps to get these Pirelli tires warmed up, to get them into temperature, because these Ferrari Challenge 458 Ferraris really need to heat the tires up and get some heat in the brakes. So when they bomb down into turn 1, they know they got grip and they know they can stop, because I will tell you, on the start of that race, you are flat sailing getting down into turn 1. So you got to have everything warmed up. Now that's what's pretty cool about the series. They're letting these drivers do that and getting themselves ready to go. They'll grid them in a little bit.
Yes.
They're giving them 7 minutes to get these things warmed up.
Yes.
Then they got to be on pit road. So this is kind of exciting watching this.
Yes. And of course what we have here in CoppaShell of our gentleman racers, one of which is Rick Lovett, who finished the race P2 yesterday. He's from Canada. Now he raced in the supports to the Rolex 24 earlier this year as a guest in the North American series, so he knows the track. And I think, if I'm honest with you, Rusty, we saw that in the race yesterday. Those European drivers that have taken time to perhaps experience this circuit are getting the best out of it.
They really are. They're number one. They're just great drivers, number one. But now they're adapting to this track quicker than a lot of people thought they would.
Yes.
And they really understand it. Now this is a tough course, but it's a pretty straightforward course. We call it 6 corners. Really fast turn 1, a real slow exit turn 6 onto NASCAR banking. And I will tell you, the drivers I've talked to, they love getting on that banking. They just love coming through that gearbox, coming from 3rd gear up to 7th gear. And, you know, I'll tell you what, these cars got a lot of power, too.
Yes.
When you come out of that bus stop and you get to the start-finish line and that little bit of distance, these Ferraris are running 191 miles per hour.
Oh, that is phenomenal. It is the CoppaShell Race 2 of the weekend about to get underway. So a little indicator of where we are and some of the sights and scenes here in Daytona. As we look at Hodez then, who's going from P2 on the grid. And Ferrari of Washington is the team that is represented there as the final handshake from race engineer before the door is closed. And there is a diminutive little Tommy Lindroth from Sweden, who is a fantastic character, and he'll be going from P20 on the grid. There's the Hublot safety car, and as is the case here at Daytona, 2 formation laps for these drivers. The first formation lap is done at a certain pace, and then we'll bring the pace up before the race is about to get underway. It's race 2. Race 1 was yesterday, and let's take a look at some of the highlights of that race right now. There's something magical about this place, which becomes even more magical when the green flag drops on a race that's illuminated by artificial light. And those artificial lights running at a mere 25% of their capacity, but boy, it still looked brilliant, and so did the cars as well as the race got underway. Von Skeltermar with the shark's teeth on the front of the 177 car, was trying to make hay while the sun shone right at the start of the race. On board, looking backwards from Rick Lovett into turn number 1 off the tri-oval part, and there was Rick Lovett with the brake discs lighting up, looking even more evocative, of course, at night, and he was being chased the whole way by Matt Keegan. Von Skeltermar with a bit of a moment there, for which he was penalised a little bit later on in the race, and his partner looked on and thought, I don't know. We lost Deborah Mayer, one of the lady racers, which was sad to see, and the Hublot safety car was brought out so that that car could be safely recovered. When the race resumed, it was that overtake on Rick Lovett which changed the front end of this race. And Stylef Squadra Corsa were pretty happy about their man, and Keegan then, and it was Thomas Loflad that had taken that lead with that audacious move, and Rick Lovett was left to celebrate P2 only as the checkered flag fell, because it was Thomas Loflad that took the win. So in those highlights, Rusty, you can see they mean business, don't they? They
mean business. I mean, this is such a big race. I mean, here for Ferrari, the first time in North America. I mean, it's an inaugural event that everybody wants to shine in. They all want to win it. And I think everybody's driving a little bit harder than they normally do. They really want to show off. They really want to run good. At least I do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's great that the Finale Mondiale event is here for the first time, been received and welcomed with open arms, and the enthusiasm from just the staff here in Daytona and from the fans that we talk to, it's intoxicating almost.
It really is. And what a great place to have it. I mean, a $400 million rebuild here at Daytona. This place is just absolutely beautiful. The drivers all love it. The Ferrari people, from what I hear, are really loving the racetrack.
I think so.
So it's a great event. All systems go so far. And tomorrow is the big one. But before that happens, we got the CoppaShell race here. And we all know this is going to get real exciting, because race 1 was great. That was a night race. Now we get a day race. And we'll see what happens here. The track's going to be slicker yet.
Okay, we're about to get the race underway. So it is the first time here in North America for the Finale Mondiale, as we throw all the social media up on screen for you, where you can be part of this Finale Mondiale. And it's the final race in CoppaShell for the Ferrari Challenge Championship. The championship has already been won, but it is the final race. The races tomorrow are what I call the gold roof races. They're the races of honor, Rusty, because that is World Championship. That's what you really want to win.
You are exactly right. I mean, you mentioned that the championship's already wrapped up. It is, but my gosh, for the first time in North America and for the first time here at Daytona, this is almost as big as a championship for these drivers. They are really jacked up and really ready to go today. So right now they're doing their final warm-up lap. As one more lap, they'll get on the back straightaway, and as they get through what we call the bus stop, they'll go straight. They'll line them up 2 by 2, and they'll anticipate that start. You'll be down in 4th gear, you'll get it down to 3rd gear, and then all of a sudden that flag's going to drop, and all heck's going to break loose then.
Your color that you're bringing us, I actually feel like I'm in the car now. It's superb, absolutely superb. Here's the grid in full then. Rick Lovett goes from P1. Hodes is alongside P2. Then it's Von Skeltermar and Matt Keegan, then P3 and P4. The first 2 rows of the grid for race number 2 for CoppaShell here in Daytona, Finale Mondiale 2016. Then we see Renata D'Amato. Good qualifying from him to go from P5. Vladimir Hladek P6. Then it's Zeckelman P7. Eric Prinot P8. Then we find Tanny Hanna, P9. Thomas Gosner is P10. Then it's James Courtney and Ingvar Madsen. Another good qualifying from the Scuderia Autoropa driver going from P12 on the grid. Williams is P13. Then it's Montague, Yang, and Jean-Claude Sada for Boardwalk Ferrari. Then we find Seldorf and Christian Kinch, Holger Harmsen, the German racer, and Tommy Lindroth for Baron Service going from P20, Claudio Schiavone. Then it's Min and Demore and Kriton Lendudis, who had a bit of an off moment yesterday. Deborah Mayer, another one of the lady racers, goes from P25. Then it's Mancuso, Musial and Sato rounding out row 14 of the grid. On On row 15, we find Bayek and Hugh, and then in row 16, it's Longo and Watt with Manuela Gosner, another lady racer. Row 17 with Menzel and Palermo, and then we see Perescoia. Thomas Lowflat took the win yesterday, going right from the back of the pack as the cars then, well, it takes your breath away just to look at them, and this is only a formation lap. Wait until we get racing onto the infield section through this turn 1, Rusty, which this has seemed to be one of the favorite places for trying to make an overtake.
Yeah, you want to build your speed as you leave the bus stop in the back straightaway and start getting that draft going like they do in NASCAR. At least that's what I try to do. And you start gaining speed, and as you come off of what we call NASCAR turn 4,
yes,
you really get closer and closer to them. And when you get right to the bumper, you make that dive to the bottom or to the top, whatever you have enough nerve for.
Because you can do it both ways. You can go around the outside or you can go underneath.
You can go underneath, and that's the more favorable way to do it. Now, I tried to go around the top a couple times, and it worked, but that guy inside of me got a little close and kind of knocked me off the course. So,
okay.
But you can do it both ways. But that is the moment of the start of the race that's most concerning to most people. You got to be kind of careful getting in there for that one. But like I said earlier, when you get into turn 1, what's so remarkable, you're running 191 miles per hour.
Yes, that's not a small speed.
And you're going from 7th gear all the way down to 3rd gear, and you are flat flying, and those brake rotors are lit up cherry red. You're asking a lot out of the car on the start of this race.
You could have confidence in the wheels underneath you, haven't you?
Oh, you bet.
Okay, just look at that bank-in. Wow, it looks so good. And these 4.58s, of course, another historic moment is the fact that this, for the CoppaShell drives, is the last time in the Ferrari Challenge they'll be using the 4.58 Evo car. We move to the 4.88 next year.
I saw some sneak pictures of the 4.88, 100 more horsepower, you know, more downforce in the front, more downforce in the back. The car looks really cool looking, so we'll get a official unveiling of it later. At least I will get to see it, hopefully. But I did see some photographs from Ferrari, and the car just looked fantastic. And I will tell you, that's talk in the garage area. Everybody's already getting their checkbook out, and they're looking for a new car. They all want that.
Okay. Right, this is it. The final formation lap behind the safety car. All the cars are going to have to grid up in order now. Rick Lovett in his pole position. Hodes is alongside in the 351 car. Then it's Von Skeltermar. He's going to be very keen from P3. It's been a very good qualifying from him. He means business, you can tell, because as you look at the car, those shark's teeth across the front of the car, he always wants to bite.
Yeah, he wants to get him, doesn't he?
Yes. Behind him is Renato D'Amato. He's going to want to be having a go as well as Vladimir Hladek, and every single driver wants the honor of taking some good results here. Have no fear. So we await the safety car to pull off into the pit lane at the very last moment. Then it will be the responsibility of the front row of the grid to set the pace for the remaining meters of the rolling lap. The Hublot safety car comes in. Stand by. CoppaShell race 2. We have green for go and Rick Lovett, and look at Von Skeltermar already on the inside, trying to move into P2.
Good jump out of Lovett. I mean, he really came through the gearbox getting down on the turn 1, and that was so key that he was able to jump those guys.
So brilliant move by Von Skeltermar. He's up to P2. Eric Prinot looking pretty lively as well. Rick Lovett and Von Skeltermar, P1, P2, both drivers from the European Kessel Racing squad.
And what they want to do right now is just get out of there. They want to clear these guys, get single file, and start laying some big-time laps down. Really get fast, not be all cluttered up with people all over you. Get that clean air, we call it, where the car handles better and works better.
So Rick Lovett then, who is leading the race as he did for much of the race yesterday. We're on board with Von Skeltermar in P2 now. Both of these drivers racing for the same team. Heck, there's no team orders here. Every driver is an individual driver. They choose which team they want to work with, and both Fons and Rick choosing to work with the celebrated Kessel Racing team. Ronnie Kessel, team principal, is here this weekend and loving every moment of it. He'll be loving this moment with his drivers P1 and P2.
And talk about loving every minute of, that's what these drivers are liking right now. Coming out of turn 6 in 3rd gear, accelerating up to 7th gear, about 181 miles per hour going into the bus stop. They are flat getting it right there.
Okay, so heavy braking now as they make the turn into the bus stop. The Rusty Wallace, who's alongside me, and delighted to have him here as he can talk us through this phenomenal Daytona circuit. And Von Skeltermar there in P2. The margin between the two of them, because Rick Lovett's at a 30.9 through Sector 2. They're matched absolutely to the 10th of a second between the both of them. They are so close in terms of time. But at the moment, Rick Lovett is doing everything that he needs to do because he's eking out just a bit of a gap, isn't he? And what he's doing is allowing Hodez to come back at von Skeltermar here.
And you know, if a guy hits his marks every single time and shifts these Ferraris at the correct moment, you can pull these guys if you do it right. You got to, once you see a red light on your shift gauge, you pull it. You pull another gear. Because if you don't, one more little click on the red light, the car will go into the rev limiter, and it'll start killing power. And it'll do what we call nose over.
So you lose momentum.
You lose momentum, and that's the leader of this race right now. Lovett is doing such a good job because I was watching his shift lights here.
Okay.
I was looking from inside the core. He was hitting them perfect every single time. And if you mess up there, the car feels like it just stalls out and loses power. And boy, I did that a lot myself today. Man, I was doing a lot of wrong things, but I've learned pretty quick what to do and what not to do.
Well, in the space of just over a lap, Rick Lovett has done exactly as you've suggested. A 1 second gap he has over von Skeltermar, who is running in P2, as one car missed the turn number 1 and went through the cones, and another one decided to hit one of the cones as well, just for good measure. So on to the banking then. And there is von Skeltermar. Now, around the banking, Rusty Wallace, is there a right line or a wrong line? Where do you get the most out of that banking?
No, there is a right line. The right line is right dead on the bottom. I see a lot of cars up in the middle and high. That's not where you want to be. You really want to be right on the bottom of this racetrack. It's the shortest way around, and these guys got enough horsepower under the hood to make it work like that. So right on the bottom, that's what they told me. And I keep looking at that, and every time it works, that the bottom is the fastest.
Okay. Well, Rick Lovett then increases by another 10 through the that sector. And now Hodez is beginning to claw von Skeltermar back in. Just keeping your eyes on the 351 car. This is the challenge going on for P2. Hodez then for Ferrari of Washington, representing the North American. We've got a safety car. We have a safety car deployed. We know not the reason why yet. Doubtless we'll get a replay of why we have a safety car, but all of a sudden, that'll be the reason why that 323 car, which is stricken, that's the car of Alexander Menzel from the collection. Presumably that's the reason the safety car has been called for. Just looking at that.
It looks like just a mechanical failure, maybe a gearbox failure, or you maybe over-revved the motor, blew it up or something, but that's really unusual for these Ferraris to have any mechanical issue whatsoever.
So reliable, so reliable. Now, what this does as a racing driver, but poor old Rick Lovett, who was doing everything exactly right, exactly as you suggested he should, all of a sudden, that 1 second margin or 1.3 second margin he had,
now it's gone, completely gone. The only thing that's better about these restarts is that they're single file instead of double file, and you got to hold off that guy getting into turn 1 at the start of the race. Now, with them just being single file, a little bit easier, but what he needs to do is just get through that gearbox, get 4 or 5 car lengths on him, get down to turn 1, and he'll have his comfort level back again.
Yeah. What we find here with a restart in the Ferrari Challenge is the man that's got the hardest job is von Skeltermar in P2, because what he needs to do is to try and anticipate when Rick Lovett is going to floor it, because the final part of the safety car restart will be down to Rick Lovett to control the pace, as he did here. As we look at a replay of the start, von Skeltermar had got that absolutely nailed to take P2 away from Hodez as the rest of the cars came through, and the green flag was flying here at Daytona for this CoppaShell Racing to turn number 1. And a number of places being made up there, and Eric Prinot was being hung out to dry as well. We're back with the live pictures now as we're under the safety car, but the lights appear to be out atop the safety car, so that suggests to me that the safety car will come in at the end of this lap. So there is the man that's in P2, von Skeltermar, his teammate. Rick Lovett is the car that we can see through the windshield of von Skeltermar here.
You know, it's just unbelievable, the brute speed of these cars, these 458s. I mean, to come out of that bus stop and accelerate from there to the start-finish line and run 191 miles an hour. And you think about a NASCAR stock car here that I've run many times. We're running about 195 miles per hour, but it takes a lap and a half to get that thing up to speed. These guys get up to speed from the middle of the back straightaway to the front straightaway. They're running that fast. That's how strong and how much horsepower these Ferraris got.
Here we go. Let's go back to racing then. The safety car is peeled off. Rick Lovett floors it. So does von Skeltermar. They both break away a little bit from Hodez in P3 as they'll be heading now into turn number 1.
That's a tough move to make it around outside without losing that rear end of that car. Looks like he's pulled it off, though.
Yeah, it does. So now Von Skeltermar is sensing an opportunity here to get on terms with Rick Lovett from that restart. To be fair, he anticipated when Rick was going to floor that. They know each other well. They're good buddies off of track. But actually, when you get on track and the crash helmet goes on, you don't have any friends. Do you, Rusty
You
Wallace?
have no friends at all. I mean, you don't want to hurt anybody, but you want to take their money, that's for sure. You want to take their glory, and you want to beat them. That's just what racing's all about.
We stay on board with Von Skeltermar now as he's tracking every single back end of that 458 of 112. Rick Lovett, who is leading this race. We're on the infield section of this phenomenal Daytona circuit as they rejoin the speedway now. And Rick Lovett has got good traction out of there, and he's going up high onto the banking now. And that seems to be where Von Skeltermar has just lost out a little bit.
Now, see, they get up high on the banking. I don't like them getting that high, but what I do like is get on the banking, get high, then kind of run down the hill to build the momentum as you exit.
Gives you a bit more.
It's like running downhill, and it gives you just a little bit. And that's where I passed about 3 cars today in this race.
So Lovett then under braking now for the bus stop. Now we saw an overtake through the bus stop earlier on, and we're going to see another one now. Tanny Hanna, though, is onto the grass, and Eric Prinott is able to get past Tanny Hanna as well. So that was a mistake in the end from Tanny Hanna, although was he forced out a little bit by that car coming through on the inside? Check it out in replay. So Tanny Hanna on the outside here as they both turn in. Well, the 325 car was ahead. It was Eric Prinott and Tanny Hanna seemingly not able to make that turn exactly right.
Yeah, Tammy really had enough room to pull down underneath right there, but she probably doesn't have a spotter, doesn't know that there was room to do that.
Yeah.
I used a spotter today because that's what I'm accustomed to. I think that would probably help the rest of them.
So off there is Jeff Palermo in the Ferrari of San Francisco, car number 313. And this in replay, perhaps we can see, there's a spin there going into the bus stop for Palermo. Managed to get it onto a safe position on the grass, and hopefully has been able to recover from that. It will have filled those air coolers with grass, though, that's for sure. Meantime, battle going on here between the Vladimir Hladik car in number 144 and Hodes in 351. Vladimir Hladik taking a interesting line through that turn, heading up towards the kink now, which is... Beg your pardon, they're coming on to returning back onto the speedway now. And Vladimir Hladik in P4.
And that's where I like
P4.
Coming up that bank and then running down just like he did there. The car, which is on the bottom of the track now, did that the correct way. I like how he's done that one.
Okay.
And boy, you want to get that car right lined up in the slipstream, right behind the windshield. You accelerate up on his bumper like he's doing now, setting him up.
Yep.
And if you could do that and be tighter coming down the front straightaway before you go into turn 1, you'll be able to make a pass right there.
So Hladik now that we're watching in the 144 car, it's now that he has to start setting up his potential overtake into turn number 1, as far back as that, Rusty.
He does. He really needs to basically read the air. He's got to line up perfectly behind the car in front of him and try to get that speed built up as he gets to the start-finish line here at the Daytona International Speedway. Then he'll be set for turn 1.
Well, for my money, I don't think it's close enough.
Not close enough is right.
Hodes is getting ever closer to Von Skeltermar there. Oh, is there going to be contact? Well, he had to dial out of that, so Vladimir Hladik could take advantage, but wasn't. If he'd just been a car length closer, he'd have been able to take advantage of that mistake.
And that is seeing your competition so close that you go for it, and you get in there so deep that even with ABS brake systems on these Ferraris, it's not enough to stop it.
No. Wow. Well, that's brought this... a drive-through penalty is being given to car number 371, and that's the car of Brian Kaminsky for overtaking before the line. Here's our race leader then, Rick Lovett for CoppaShell Racing. He was furious yesterday that he had the win taken away from him by a driver overtaking, perhaps with a couple of wheels on the grass, and that of course was Thomas Loflad, but well, he didn't look very smooth there, and problem there for the car there with the isn't that truism now, the 313 car of Palermo.
And they're working on the front of the car where all the air scoops are for the brakes. That's where all the air comes in to cool these brakes, which get really hot. So I noticed it was all loose, so maybe he lost his brakes and lost all the cooling. Could have happened.
The thing is, I mentioned just a few moments ago, when you go offline or actually off the tarmac and you're on the grass and you fill up those vents, as we can see there on the 507 car,
yes,
that's going to restrict the cooling, isn't it?
Very much so. The cooling's going to really get hurt because the radiators on both sides behind the front tires, and so it ducts that air off the front into those radiators. But the center scoop, that ducts all the air into the brakes. So if you block that up, you're going to lose your brakes.
And that is something that is so, so critical, isn't it? The battle for 18th position there between Min and Quiton Lendudis. It's the battle between Asia Pacific and Europe that's being played out there. Of course, we have all three geographical regions in one race here for CoppaShell: Asia Pacific, North America, and of course Europe. And we have two European drivers, P1 and P2, with a North American driver, P3 at the moment, in Hodez, who is holding on to that P3 spot. Cars getting very skirmish under braking, but there is the 550 car, Yang, wandering in P13 at the moment. The best of the Asia-Pacific drivers, and the German driver Holger Harmsen then in the 111 car, who's running just behind in P14.
You know what's really amazing is all the braking, all how hot the brake rotors get. At nighttime, you can really see it. We heard a lot of talk last night when I got out of the car. Everybody kept coming up to me saying, my gosh, I can't believe how hot these brakes get. And they look like they're completely on fire, but they're all carbon brakes,
yes,
and they can stand it. I will tell you, everybody in the U.S. is not used to that. We all got steel rotors, all steel rotors in NASCAR. You don't see anything like this, and this is really impressive to watch. And you think there's going to be a failure, but it doesn't happen.
There isn't. So Yang leads the way for Asia Pacific then it's Min and Sato and Hugh. And we were just watching just a few moments ago the battle for P14 between Holger Harmsen and Claudio Schiavone. Claudio Schiavone had a great time of it in the Jerez circuit in Spain, and there you can see that very battle I'm talking about between Holger Harmsen and Claudio Schiavone. Claudio Schiavone in the 102 car, and just ahead of them is the Yang machine, which is leading for the Asia-Pacific region. So we're just about half distance as von Skeltermar comes under some pressure now, as he's got two cars behind him, but Vladimir Hladek has got past Rob Hodez, but that was a bit of a mistake from Rob Hodez, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, a little mistake right there, but it didn't hurt him that bad. He was able to still hold on and not lose much on that one.
Okay, so now it's Vladimir Hladek that is going to hound von Skeltermar. Whilst all this is going on, when you're the race leader, as you are with Rick Lovett, he's just able to nail everything perfectly, and he's built himself up a nice comfort gap of 2 seconds.
Well, you know, the thing I'm watching about Lovett is his speed. His last lap was a 150.40.
Yeah.
And that was that speed right there would have been the top 5 speed last night of the pro category of Trofeo Pirelli.
Yes.
So, I mean, the CoppaShell guys supposedly don't have as much experience as the top guys, but Lovett has got the same speed as the race winner in the top class last night.
That says something. Now, von Skeltermar, his rearview mirror is full of the Vladimir Hladek car, as we see what I think is going to be a retirement for the 315 car of Tom Sharp, Ferrari of Atlanta. But this is where Skeltermar is now going to have to defend very, very vigorously, because Vladimir Hladek wants to wrestle away that P2 position. They're into the bus stop now. Hladek and Skeltermar, the battle for second position. So whilst von Skeltermar is having to think about defending, of course, he's not able to get in touch with Rick Lovett. Now, that was the mistake that Rob Hodez made that allowed Vladimir Hladek to get alongside.
He did. Boy, he tried hard. He got in that turn one so deep and barely held on to it. A lot of guys can't make it. They just go straight and abort,
yes,
I call it, because if you don't, you're going to hit that tire barrier.
Okay, into turn one once again.
Way high.
No. And, oh, that in replay was once again how Vladimir Hladek went through. Now, where is that? That's going to provoke a safety car for sure. And furthermore, who is that as our camera zooms in there? Yes, safety car has been called for straight away. So from our commentary position, and that we think is right there on what we call Speedway 1.
Yeah, it looks like turn one. It looks like he got in real hot and spun the car in the entry of turn one. There is a lot of runoff room down there where if you get in too strong, you can spin the car and still be okay. Let's take a look here.
Oh, no.
He lost a right rear tire at 190 miles an hour and spun that car around. Must have ran over a piece of debris and blew a tire.
Whoa.
Way too early for a tire failure or anything like that. So a lot of guys cut some tires down with some of this carbon fiber actually falling off the car after they had some contact, bumping each other. The debris gets on the track, they run over it and lose a tire.
Well, there were 6 or 7 or 8 donuts he did there, and actually to keep that out of the concrete wall when that tire just let go, fair play.
If that was me, I'd have the wheel turn left and my eyes closed. And then when it stops, you open your eyes and didn't hit anything. That's pretty good.
Now, this is going on behind the safety car because these are live pictures. There's a bit of a squabble going on here between Rob Hodes and Vladimir Hladek about who has got that P3 position behind von Skeltermar here.
Well, at that point, they just need to stay calm.
Yes.
Because the scoring knows where they're going to be at, and then scoring will tell them who's in front of each other.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, that's very frustrating as a driver. You think you're in front of that guy, and he's racing you for it, and you're guarding it off. Then the crew chief comes on the radio and says, calm down, guys. Timing and scored us until you're where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, relax.
And just as you've said that, that's exactly what has happened. Look.
They've relaxed.
This in replay then. And that, of course, was just as the safety car had been called. So there was no way that the overtake was on at that point, I don't think. Now, they wouldn't have necessarily seen the safety car board until the next marshal point. Although, perhaps that was just before the safety car had been called, to be fair to them, in which case Vladimir Hladek is in the right place, and that's certainly what our timing screen is telling us. So we're on board with von Skeltermar then, who running in P2. Of course, what this means for Rick Lovett, Rusty, is the fact that, you know, once again, he's done the best job possible, hasn't he? He's built up, and you talked about this right at the start of the race. This is what he needs to do. Build up a little bit of a comfort gap, and he's done that on every time. And
you know, exactly right. He started from the front in this race. He's done a great job on the restart of the race and on the initial start, because what he's not really having to race anybody. He's just having to hit his lines and do everything just perfect and keep posting good, fast speeds out there. Not having to race really hard and fend people off like the guys behind him.
Sure. Fastest lap, incidentally, came on lap 5 from Eric Prinot, who's running in P5 with a 1:49.614. That's not a bad lap time by any means.
No, that's quick.
So there we can see the car being recovered.
Tell you what, he did a good job holding on that car, because that was a really aggressive spin. I mean, we saw 5 or 6 or maybe 7 spins as he had that issue going into turn 1.
That must be, as a racing driver, Rusty, your worst nightmare. Your heart's in your mouth, isn't it? Because you can't, you know, other than control to the best of your ability, you're out of control, aren't you?
You are out of control. I mean, the only thing that saved him, he did lose the tire at the very fastest part of the racetrack.
Okay.
But at least he didn't lose it at the one of the fast spots in the banking coming off of NASCAR turn 4. He'd have really clobbered the wall pretty hard if that would have happened there.
Sure. We're on board with von Skeltermar then, who is P2. There's the bus stop to the left-hand side, as you can see. Safety car just avoids the bus stop. Here's our leader in the Asia Pacific Series. It's Yang for CTF Beijing, who is P1 at the moment in the 550 car. It's actually P12 in the race overall, but leading Asia Pacific. For North America, it's Rob Hodes then, who is P4 in that 351 car. Number made famous in the UK, of course, by oval racer one Mr. Barry Lee. That was always his racing number. But Rick Lovett it is. That is the leader in Europe and leader of the race overall. Now, Rusty, something that I noticed yesterday is when you see those brake discs, or rotors as you call them, light up, there seems to be almost 2 lines around there. Does that mean the pad is only connecting with 2 lined parts of the disc?
Yeah, it really does. It means to me that the brake pad is, you know, hitting a little bit uneven. It's not hitting exactly the same.
Okay.
Even though the brake pad's flat and the brake rotor is flat, there's some temperature differential across that. You get so hot and things start moving around that it doesn't wear exactly perfect. Now, that's what you want it to do,
of course.
but obviously it's not doing that. We're looking at it.
In much the same way where you want the maximum surface of the tyre to be in contact with the tarmac all the time. Clearly, when you're turning, you're not going to be doing that, and that would appear to be the case with the brake disc and the brake pad as well. Of course, two flat surfaces, but as they wear, so that's why you see the two lines developing on those brake discs.
Now, you just brought up something that's pretty important. The camber, the angle of the rear tires and the front tires at this particular track. I tested in Austin, Texas with the Ferrari. It had 2.5 degrees of camber in the front and 3.5 in the back.
So negative camber on the back?
On both sides,
okay.
But real aggressive, and that's what you would run on a slower, flatter road course. But Daytona, you're in the banking so much, the Pirelli tire engineers found out that the cars were running on the inside edge of the tires too long and causing a failure. So the rule here at Daytona is all the way from 3.5 degrees now, they backed it up to 2 degrees.
Oh, okay.
And so they don't really injure the tire and hurt it that much. So some of these guys are trying to abuse that rule, I hear, because they get a little more grip with more camber, but if they go too far, they blow a tire out.
So, yeah, where you think you might gain, it could cost you in the long term of the race.
Absolutely, it sure could.
Okay, we're looking at the leader in the Ladies' Cup, which is one of the Ghostner sisters. 183 is Manuela Ghostner. Manuela, Corinna, her sister, and also Thomas' dad is racing in this race. Tommy Lindroth, who I mentioned earlier on, is running in P16 at the moment. And Thomas Ghostner is in the top 10 running P10. Lights still flashing atop the safety car. We have 6 3/4 minutes left. And therein is from Ferrari San Diego, as the laptop is out. And that's Claudia, that's Deborah Mayer in 1:08. Another one of the lady racers for Scuderia Nicky. Scuderia Nicky was a new team into the Ferrari Challenge this year, looking after Deborah Mayer and also Claudio Schiavone. Schiavone is running in P14. Deborah Mayer had a retirement yesterday and a retirement today as well. That's a great shame because she's been driving so well.
That's unfortunate. She's probably feeling terrible right now because this is such a big race for her and a track for everybody, actually. This is a signature event on the Ferrari Challenge event, one they've been talking about for a long time. Last year, this was in Abu Dhabi, if I'm correct.
You're right.
And this year, we're here in the North America at the World Center of Racing Daytona Speedway, which just finished this massive renovation.
Daytona Rising, it was called, wasn't it?
Daytona Rising, yeah. Everything, if you go outside, is different and new and beautiful.
Yeah, I have to say, as we drove into the paddock this morning, I mentioned to my colleague Nico alongside me here, just how very smart everything is and clean and tidy. And I have to say, credit to all the staff who are so welcoming as well. Right, Von Skeltermar is right on the back of Rick Lovett now with only 5.5 minutes of racing to go. Turn 1 could be a bit harum-scarum as they head into it for the first time of asking. Rick Lovett leading. There is Von Skeltermar. Bear in mind, tyre temperature will have reduced. Brake temperature will have reduced, Rusty. This is when problems can occur.
This is exactly right. The tires are slick. They're half wore out. The brakes are not as good as they were. But all 3 of the front leaders did a great job getting in there, not too hot, and keeping the car underneath of them. Okay, so Rick Lovett leads them then through the infield section. They're heading up towards the kink now, which is turn number 4, before heading towards the west hairpin, which is turn number 5. And that leads them back round into turn number 6 and back out onto the speedway once again. We're on board with Rick Lovett then. Von Skeltermar now under some pressure from Vladimir Hladek, very nearly into the back end of that Von Skeltermar car. And we're on board with Von Skeltermar now as he takes a look at turn number 6, which will take him back out onto Speedway or NASCAR 1.
Oh,
and Vladimir Hladek is having a go.
That's where he can make a good pass if he ducks down now. Oh, we got one off course. The 596 is off course.
Yeah, that's Yang as well. No, that's not Yang. That is Wang who's gone. Look at that. There was a touch between the two of them. That in replay.
They got aggressive on that one. There's no doubt about it.
So Rick Lovett heavy braking into the bus stop then, whilst these two in P2 and P3 are battling together. Of course, Rick Lovett is rubbing his hands with invisible soap because he's able to get up the road. So there is Von Skeltermar P2. And what else can we see here? Tanny Hanna then. Whoa. And that was the 596 car going off and onto the grass there. Is going to be able to recover from there. A drive-through penalty for Tommy Lindroth and also for Holger Harmsen for overtaking before the start-finish line. So both 127 and 111 going to get a drive-through penalty, and they were in P12. Oh, and that's a big, big spin there, isn't it, for the 550 car?
Yeah, it just looks like he's coming out of the bus stop and got too high and spun it and kept it around, and now he's back on course and going again, but way behind.
So 3 minutes left in the final race of CoppaShell for 2016, ahead of the big world finals tomorrow, the Gold Roof race. Well, Rick Lovett. Oh, and we see another car off now. Waved yellows there for the 306 car. And that's Williams who's off there. Carl Williams into the barriers. And depending on where that is on the track again, that might call for a safety car. So he was battling together there.
I'm trying to see where that's at. It looks like he's exiting turn 1, going to what we call the horseshoe.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly where it happened.
Okay.
He got off course right there and got in. Unfortunate. He was running in the 6th position at that time. Late in the race. Here we are with 2 minutes left, and he's in the wall.
Well, there's going to be no recovering that car from that position with just 2 minutes left on the clock for this race.
And they were side by side at that point, and that's really...
Well, in fairness, both spun, didn't they? It was just the Williams it was, that clattered into the barriers. Well, they're continuing to race for now. And Vladimir Hladek, once again, is turning the tap on von Skeltermar ahead of him. And he's going to try and find a way past because he's running out of time to be able to do it. So up towards the start-finish line they go, and turn number 1 beckons for the 1, 2, 3. So that drive-through penalty I mentioned for Tommy Lindroth and also for Holger Harmsen. That's taken them out of the equation, sadly. Both running really, really well. And Rick Lovett is 1.5 seconds to the good as they cross the timing line. Hladek has got past. Hladek has got past von Skeltermar. So it's a reversal P2, P3. So Vladimir Hladek, now whether he did that into turn 1, because we saw the cars heading towards turn 1, it's the only place he could have done it, isn't it?
It sure is. You know, going back a little bit, you saw Williams sitting off the side of the track with the yellow flag waving. I tell you, that's nerve-wracking for a driver that comes through. That flag's just waving. That's a cautionary area.
Yes.
Let the cars off. Be careful. But if you're that car off and those babies are whipping past you at 150 mile an hour, you're nervous because you don't want them to hit you. Oh, contact.
Now. Rob Hodes is going for P3 as well. There was a little bit of contact between Rob Hodes and von Skeltermar. Skeltermar will so want to hold on to this P3 place in the race overall, having lost out to P2. And Eric Prinot is coming into the mix as well now, but we are on the last lap.
And look how deep he drives it in the corner, just trying to do everything he possibly can, but that outside pass is awful tough to make, because he runs on a racing line right there.
So on the final lap then, but Hodes, he's going to have a go on von Skeltermar. So the 177 car is P3 now, having been passed by Vladimir Hladek. And up high is Rob Hodes then. He's now back into the slipstream of the 177 car, comes out of the slipstream as they head towards the checkered flag. My goodness me. This is so close.
And he held him off.
He did hold him off. I was expecting us to see the checkered flag, but we didn't. But the winner is Rick Lovett. Vladimir Hladek is P2. Then von Skeltermar, then Rob Hodes, then it's Eric Prinot, Ingvar Madsen, a really good show from Ingvar Madsen. Zeckelman is P7. Thomas Gosner, another good drive from Thomas for P8. Renato D'Amato, P9. And Holger Harmsen, P10, which of course will be reduced because he's got to serve a drive-through penalty, so he didn't have time to take the drive-through penalty, therefore he'll have a time penalty added to the race result.
And he won't like that.
Rusty Wallace, what a race.
You're exactly right. You told me this race was going to be exciting. It's very, very exciting. But here's a guy that's excited right now. Love it. He had a mistake-free race, hit his marks every single lap that I saw, no mistakes, and because of that, he wins this race.
And to be fair to him, he was P2 yesterday in the race overall. he feels he was overtaken and an advantage was taken by Thomas Loflad, and he felt a bit hard done by. So it's probably, they say about karma, everything that goes around comes around.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And you take it any way you can get it. But Lovett today had probably the fastest car in the race.
Yes, and you're right. He never once, and this is what really impressed me about Rick Lovett's driving today, he had to do it twice over, didn't he? 3 times over he had to start the race because of those safety cars, but he didn't lose his concentration, he didn't lose his focus. And furthermore, something that you've said, Rusty, is he didn't make any mistakes, did he?
No, the mistakes is the big deal. I mean, shifting wrong, getting into corners too hot, missing your line, sliding out. There is so many opportunities here at Daytona to make a mistake. Trust me, I've made a lot of them in the last couple of days trying to understand these new cars in this track. But he did everything right. He did a great job.
Von Skeldamar takes a P3. He'll perhaps be disappointed because for so much of the race he was P2, but Vladimir Hladik wrestled away that P2, and well, Rob Hodez was, despite being the winner for North America, was certainly trying to wrestle that P3 position away, and there you can see Eric Prinot, who will take a P5. And incidentally, Eric set the fastest lap of the race on lap number 5, a 1:49.614, which now we see, you know, what the lap times are now, and that tyre degradation, it really reinforces the fact how the speed differential changes as the race duration increases.
They do wear out quite a bit as the race goes on, but I'll tell you, that last lap, look at Lovett's speed, 150.04. That's awful fast at the end of this 30-minute race. I mean, he done a great job managing that, but the tires did cool down a little bit because of that last caution. He got a little more grip.
That's true.
But he's a true road racer, that is for sure.
Well, Rick Lovett will be delighted about that. We saw him at dinner last night, and he was a little bit despondent and a bit disappointed. But today, I have a feeling he might be buying me a drink later on.
I
and
think
you
so.
too, Rusty, I think. So there he is then, the Canadian racer Rick Lovett, who missed out on the last round of the Ferrari Challenge. Sadly, he wasn't at the Spanish circuit. Ronnie Kessel, team principal, congratulates his driver. There's Von Skeltema, who replicates the teeth on the front of his crash helmet as well. And that's how much camaraderie there is in the team, Rusty Wallace, as they both embrace each other.
Well, the uniforms look the same. The helmets are painted the same. They're hugging each other. The owner's happy. They've had a good day.
Yes, I think so. Yes, I think so. So the rest of the cars make their way into the pit lane then before we get the podiums underway. And here is Rick Lovett then taking the win. He, in fairness, historic moment for Rick Lovett. He's taken the last ever CoppaShell race win. World final tomorrow doesn't count for the championship. So, and of course the last race in the 458 car as well.
They'll be switching to the new 488. Car's got about another 100 horsepower. We talked earlier in the broadcast about, I saw some of the photographs of it. More aerodynamics, more downforce. Just a beautiful looking car.
Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to listen into the conversations that are going on here. Just missed out on hearing what Fonz, I think he said I got a bump. And that's
you ever notice that all drivers talk with their hands? I went high, I went low, I spun. And as you're talking, your hands are moving all over the place. It's kind of how drivers do it.
So this in replay then. Crikey, he carried some speed through there. He's come past like an absolute bullet. And he's scrubbed the speed off as well. That's extraordinary.
It really is. You know, what I found last night after the race was over and I got my third place podium finish, how excited everybody was. And it was so confusing for me to see so many different classes of cars celebrating their podium finishes, and that was new to me. But boy, down there on pit road, it's just a great scene to see everybody so excited and so glad to be here at Daytona and to have this race underway and how they finished. It's just a neat deal.
So Lovett then takes the win. As you can see, the classification, this is for the race overall. And, well, all the colours on the graphics there indicating whether they're racing for North America, for Europe or Asia Pacific, or indeed whether they're a lady racer. And we sadly lost Deborah Mayer out of the race. However, Manuela Gosner, where did Manuela finish? A P13, another very credible finish for Manuela. She was beaten by her dad today, though, Thomas Gosner, who finished P8. But Manuela will be having a podium for the Ladies' Cup, having taken the win for the ladies. And the cars all down there in the pit road right now, and let's take a look at the highlights as we reflect on that CoppaShell race. Here they come. So as the safety car peeled off, the tension mounted, the green flag waved, and Von Skeltermar was on a mission right at the very start and moved himself up into the P2 position. Rick Lovett was trying to make hay while the sun shone and get away up the road, and that's exactly what he was doing. In the meantime, there was a big battle going on between Hodez and Vladimir Hladek. We were on board with Von Skeltermar, who's trying to maintain and keep the pace of Rick Lovett, but in the end, it was just too much. Rick was driving really, really well. A mistake there as just running wide into that turn number 1, and unfortunately we saw a few retirements during the course of the race. No question about it that this phenomenal Daytona circuit saw the end of Alexander Menzel's effort. One of 2 safety cars that would punctuate the race, and then through the bus stop here, Tanny Hanna taken across the grass. Eric Prenot going past without too much of a problem in the 181 car. And there you can see the back end of Tanny Hanna's car looking very, very loose indeed. So Rick Lovett had to do it all over again from the restart. He managed to do so and was holding off Von Skeltermar at that point. But Von Skeltermar was in a battle of his own as we saw an absolute tyre explosion, a series of donuts as the 325 car pirouetted its way past turn number 1. It was a real scary moment for Matt Keegan. That brought out the second of the safety cars that we would see during the course of that race, which meant Von Skeltermar fancied his chances once again against Rick Lovett, but it wasn't to be. In the meantime, 306 found himself up against the barriers. That was an interesting and curious place for that to happen at the International Horseshoe, but it did.
He was running 6-2. That's Williams.
Yeah. And Rick Lovett, though, could not be more delighted as he headed towards the checkered flag to take a momentous win here at Daytona International Speedway in CoppaShell. That is such an impressive podium with the Daytona International Speedway up high.
That is really something.
That's the photo you want, isn't it, as a racing driver?
Oh, I'll
Rusty?
tell you, that podium has had a lot of champagne squirted on the last couple of days. A lot of happy fellas, a lot of podium finishes. What a wonderful last couple of days we've had here at Daytona Speedway, watching all these winners celebrate and have a good time. But it's an historic week. But we got tomorrow. That's the big one. We got a big race tomorrow.
And the thing is, and I know we talked about this right at the start of the program, and you know, I guess maybe 8-10 years ago when I was first involved with Ferrari, and you kind of join this family and you're embraced and you're taken into those open arms, and there's just something very, very special, Rusty, isn't there, about being part of it?
Oh my gosh, when you think about how fantastic Ferrari's been and how beautiful cars they make, and they're all about performance, and you know, my mind goes back thinking of drivers like Schumacher and some of the greats that drove for Ferrari. And now here I am driving a Ferrari, hanging out with you, and we're all dressed in our red clothes
Yes.
and all our stuff, and we're here at Daytona, which generally when I'm here at Daytona, I'm here for the Daytona 500.
Of course.
And that'll happen in a couple months. But what a great time we've been having.
That in itself is such an event, such an event. It's different to this, completely different to this, but boy, what an event, Rusty.
Well, you know, I was talking to Jimmy France, one of the owners here at Daytona Speedway from the France family. He said, Rusty, at no time ever have we had this amount of wealth worth of automobiles at one spot ever. There's over $1 billion worth of cars here on the grounds. Over $1 billion. Some of the greatest historic cars in the world. There's Jimmy France off to your extreme left. Joey Chitwood, the fellow who worked get it here, the brand new president, Chip Wilde, is there. They're so happy. It's unreal.
We're looking at Manuela Gosner then in car number 183, then one of the lady racers that was successful. She's the fastest of the lady racers. In the meantime, let's get on with the first of the podiums.
Some happy fellas there.
Yeah, absolutely. And right to the top step of the podium. And that's a great feeling as the national anthem plays out. So Sato, Ming, and Hugh up there for the Asia Pacific podium. So we have Asia Pacific, North America, and then Europe as well.
That's Chip Wild, the new president of the Daytona International Speedway. Brand new job for him.
Second place finisher.
And that's a big job, isn't it? President of Daytona International Speedway.
He's really excited. Last night he was in Las Vegas, Nevada for the championship of NASCAR driver Jimmy Johnson, which was celebrated at the Wynn Hotel in Vegas. And they all flew last night, the whole entire staff, back because they told me this is one of the biggest events that Daytona's ever had, and they want to be here for it.
Podium finishers.
So they all get together then for the obligatory photographs. This is the Asia Pacific podium. And next up, it'll be either North America or Europe. We have a presentation team down there. And, oh, come back and enjoy this moment. Got caught out there.
That stuff is sticky, I'll tell you that. But it's a good sticky.
Sato, Min, and Hugh then taking the 1, 2, 3 with Yang P4 and Montague P5. Those in the Asia Pacific series of the Ferrari Challenge. We have the Asia Pacific, though Montague didn't start. Just noticed on the graphics there. Asia Pacific, North America, and Europe races as well. Some of those people down there just in front of the podium. Across our European racing circus, we don't see podiums with their very own grandstands.
It usually doesn't happen where you go, right? Yeah, we do have it here at Daytona, though, and it's kind of exciting.
Yes.
Usually it's packed full of photographers taking pictures, and that's what mostly happens. But here at Daytona, we get to have some fans out there to enjoy this.
Fantastic. Be part of the celebrations. Be part of the celebration.
That's what's so great about this particular race. There is, you buy a ticket, you get to go behind the scenes, and you get to see all the cars up close. A lot of times that doesn't happen at a NASCAR race or a Formula One race.
No, you're right.
But here you get to do it. A fan can come up and see something they want to see real bad. They get to go behind and see the drivers and actually touch the cars and get photos taken with them. And that's what's been so wonderful about this particular event here at Daytona.
And all the drivers in the Ferrari Challenge, yourself included, you know, love meeting the fans, love talking to the fans, and you know, there's a real welcoming attitude. You know what I mean? There's none of this superstar, you know, I'm not going to talk to anybody. That's far from the case.
It's a great feeling. They're so nice to everybody. I mean, even though I had a little problem the day I'm coming into turn 6, the race was over, and the whole grandstand just stood up and they're waving and cheering me on. It was great. And last night, everybody's getting cheered upon. It's wonderful.
So it's North America's turn for the podium now as they head up onto steps 1, 2, and 3 to receive their trophies. Of course, to hear the national anthem.
And representing the winning team, Ferrari of Washington, the Coppa Team Award. Ferrari of Washington representative joining as well on the podium.
So Hodez, Zeckelman, and Demora there. And Ferrari of Washington.
And here to present our trophies to the Pirelli CoppaShell North America.
North America CoppaShell then.
Corporation Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Joey Chitwood.
So Joey Chitwood then making the trophy presentations to our North American 1, 2, 3. Hodez, Zeckelman, and Amore there. Pretty happy with that as he holds the trophy aloft. And Just looking at the champagne that's rolling down the back of that
it's
podium,
all over the
Rusty
place.
Wallace.
I'm looking off to the right of the screen, Tim DeMoore. He's actually, Reese Competition actually is running Tim also. So Tim's actually my teammate. So last night I had a third-place podium, and Tim's had a third-place podium. So
Fantastic.
Reese's pretty happy. Both their cars had podium finishes. That's pretty neat for that team.
Next race tomorrow at 14:30. That's all we have time for. Rusty Wallace, thank you so much for being part of it.
Thank
we
you very
really
much.
appreciate it. We'll
Had a
see
great
you
time.
tomorrow. And bye-bye from us here for now until tomorrow when the Finale Mondiale returns. Bye-bye for now.
And now to present the trophies to our CoppaShell Europe drivers on the podium, we welcome IMSA Chairman Jim France. Third place finisher from the Netherlands, Fons Skeltema. Second place finisher from Czech Republic, Vladimir Kuladik. And CoppaShell Europe Region Champion from Canada, Rick Lovat. And the Coppa Team Award to Kessel Racing. And to our Coppa Ladies racer, Manuela Gassner. And our Coppa Gentleman is also going to Rick Lovat. Stands center. He is also receiving the Gentleman Award.